Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. It's going to have a great weekend. Today I want to talk to you about something that keeps getting brought up in the comments. Now, I've talked about this before, sort of touched on the topic, sort of got a little deep on the topic, and go real deep today. But these are characters that third-party masterpiece companies seem to be afraid of. And it's sort of funny because it seems like once Takara makes a particular character or so, then nobody else tackles it. And it's been going on for a while. And there's just a handful of characters that you don't see get made like this. But we're going to talk about them, and we're going to discuss other options, where it stopped, and kind of my thoughts. Coming up. Now, the first one is Bumblebee, which it's one of those that I kind of feel like the whole community was Bumblebee'd out for a while. And when this one came out, first of all, it was $63 back during a time that was unheard of for a mini-bot. And it just didn't look right to me. I didn't think it was the best option that was available. And so with that, I got it as a KO, and I still have my KO option, but I still don't think it was the best. Now, there were some other options that were out there we're going to look at, but then we get into the 2.0. I think that the 2.0 was way better than the 1.0, but this still isn't perfect. I mean, I'm going to admit it's not perfect, and there are people out there that will tell you that it's just horrible, it's terrible. But I'm looking at mine on the shelf. I think it's okay. Can we get a better one? Of course. Obviously, we can do a better one, and a lot of people feel like Fans Toys is going to make one. Now, that doesn't really change the fact that Fans Toys hasn't announced theirs yet. But you look at it side by side, kind of the Takara versus the Fans Toys, you kind of see the different direction that Fans Toys is going with theirs. But side by side, they still look good. I took this out of one of my videos. It wasn't heavily posed. I probably should have just taken the picture right off my shelf, how it's posed now. But still, this just kind of gives you an idea of size and scale, quick and easy, so you can see it. But Fans Toys hasn't officially said they're making the Bumblebee yet. It's just an assumption on all of our behalfs that Bumblebee is eventually going to come because they have this mold. But I do want to point out that when it comes to Fans Toys, a lot of their figures that they use a similar mold for are actually almost completely different. So looking at their swerve and their gears, they are going to look way different than each other. I've pointed that one out a few times, but with that, it's so interesting how they do so many changes. Will they do the same thing if and when they make a Bumblebee? Probably. There'll be some major differences. Same thing as you can see here with Pipes and then the Huffer. It's just a way different mold. It's so much different. So many parts that aren't exactly the same. And we kind of first saw that with their Aussie. So their Aussie is much different than their Hunk, which originally came out. So this is kind of a good picture that will show all of the differences between them. So with that, it just feels like they're just recoloring a character, but they're not. So I'm curious when and if and when they do a Bumblebee, how much different it will be than the Cliff Jumper. Other iterations we have gotten in the past. This one is the Feather Art, which I guess looks a lot more like the Classics version of Bumblebee, which I didn't care for the design of this, so I never picked it up. I didn't like the look. It didn't really strike me. Well, we also have this one here, which is the Impossible Toys. Now, Impossible Toys wasn't really Masterpiece. It was bigger than, say, G1, and it was exactly what GoBots should be. Just take the original design and add a couple more joints of articulation and make it a little bit better, but still, this sort of missed the mark. These all went on clearance for like $5 everywhere. Then there was the Toy World version, which I'm not sure chronologically how they all came out, but I thought this one looked pretty good, but it just felt wrong. There were still a few things that felt wrong about it, but I mean, compared to the MP21, I think this holds its own. It probably is a little bit better than the MP21, but one of the things that we do notice as all these companies, the major big hitters, have made a Cliff Jumper. So you got X Transbots, MMC, and Fans Toys, but still, none of them put out a Bumblebee, and I wonder why. Next up, we have the Wheeljack, and I feel like we talked about this one a lot lately, because there's been a lot of requests about this guy. Why do we not have him put back out? And why is he not being reissued in the Plus? Why is there not a KO of the Plus? A lot of these questions that are out there But the other big question is, why not a third party of this? Why not a Fans Toys, X Transbots, MMC? Why not one of these other ones, the Deformation Space? So if they're not in existence anymore, then come back out with another name. So with that, why? Why not? Are they afraid of something? Do they feel like this one was so good, no one could ever beat it ever again? No. That is actually not at all how third party operate. But I do believe it has something to do with maybe a fear of Takara or Hasbro. It's not really fear of Takara, right? It's fear of Hasbro. Okay, so this next one is Ironhide. And I got to tell you, there were some different Ironhides out there. And I'm not going to go into all of them because I don't think that they were all very good. There's only one option, and somebody pointed this out to me, I think last year or something. It feels like I've been talking about this guy forever, needing an update, needing a better one, and yes, we could put, there's an upgrade kit to give it the hip flaps, the side flaps, all that kind of stuff. But this one came out and all the third-party stuff. So there is one on the market that I think is better. Now, of course, I'm not talking about just for Ironhide. There's also the Ratchet. So every one of these has the Ironhide and a Ratchet at the same time. So looking at this, whoever took this picture wanted to make the Takara one look as goofy as possible. And they did a really good job, because I can make it look better than this. But I think they were trying to prove a point. They were trying to make this Voodoo one look better. Now the Voodoo toys, or Voodoo one, and I don't know much about it, and I haven't even watched a whole review on it or anything, but I do think it does look better in some areas, like the chest and the waist area. But then the lower legs look kind of goofy. I kind of like the lower legs a little bit better on the Takara one. So you still don't have a perfect one, and both of these are extremely dated, especially the Voodoo one. I think that any company making these, X Transbots, MMC, Fans Toys, any company coming out with one, Star Toy, something along those lines, would do a bang-up job way better than what we see right here. But there's more to come. There's more points. Now, I know y'all have heard me talk about this, but here we are again with a Shockwave. Again, people asking, where's a Shockwave? And just wanting any version of a Shockwave that they can get their hands on would be fine. I know that Cloud9 made one and then just fell off the face of the earth. They made a real cheap one, cheap price, well-built, extremely hefty feeling figure, well priced, $88, and then went away. Did a production run and went away. I don't know why they didn't put another production run out, or if they did put more production runs out, which I wasn't in the market. I didn't need more than one. I didn't want all the recolors that they did. They did recolors of them, but nobody else is taking a stab at this. I know Fans Toys made their first one. I wasn't a big fan of it, and then we don't really see X Transbots or MMC in this game. We don't see a Star Toy or any DS or any of that kind of stuff making this. And although I think it is the best one, I do believe Takara's is the best one. A lot of people feel like it's too small. I am one of those. A lot of people wanted the plus version, the darker purple, and I am one of those. But at this point, if Takara's not going to give it to us, why don't we just get it from a third party? A third party's not giving it to us. This is a big character, a main character, and we don't see any competition at all these days for this character, but we see them battling it out for other characters that I really don't care about. Now, I was going to bring up that Bad Cube made some of the car bots. I'm not really going to go too deep into that because I've done it too many times, but they did make a Sideswipe, and it was a Red Alert, so I think I got the Red Alert on that one. But they're okay. They're okay. They're not the best thing ever, but they are pretty good, and in some cases better than what Takara did. But now looking at what Takara did with Megatron versus all of these other Megatrons. So third party just stopped when MP36 came out. It was like, let's go ahead and put out our version of Megatron. X Transbots was first. Make Toys and DX9 jumped on the bandwagon like within a year of Apollyon. They came out swinging. I still think Apollyon looks the best of the three, but in my opinion, MP36 takes the cake. But it's kind of a big mess in the back. It is. It's kind of a mess in the back. And so when you look at all these options, though, nobody else is taking a stab at this for what, 4 years or more? How many Optimus Primes have we had this time? Now, there's a lot of questions about why they don't do it. And that's really what the whole question is. Why? I truly don't know. Why do they not make a Bumblebee? Why do they not make some of these other bigger hitters, like a Megatron, biggest hitter? Why are they not making Megatrons? I believe Takara is going to reissue their Plus version of Megatron or something along those lines. I think that's something that's coming. And there's another Optimus Prime coming next week I'll talk about. I'm not going to talk about it in here. But why are the companies not taking on these characters we talked about, like Ironhide and Bumblebee and all of them, Wheeljack? And with that, there is a little bit of expectation of fear. But then you think about it, okay, well, what's stopping Legends? Nothing. In many cases, you're getting a Legends figure coming out that's as good as whatever Masterpiece representations on the market, or better in a lot of cases now. And as time goes by, as Magic Square and New Age get better at what they do, they are getting better at beating the Masterpiece representation. And so with that, I have to say that we are getting into something I never expected. And I really wasn't into Legends when it started. Once it started getting a little bit better, I dipped my toe in it. But now I'm seeing it almost one-to-one when it comes to the representations of Masterpiece. But they're, what, a quarter the size, half the size, quarter the size, depending on how you look at it, but 4-inch instead of 9-inch or 10-inch figures. This is impressive what's going on with the Legend scale, and they're not afraid of repercussions from Hasbro or Takara. Nothing happens to Magic Square and New Age, and they make every character. Every one of these big hitters has been made. Not only have they been made, they've got 2.0 versions out there in the Legend scale now. Multiple different companies making their own representations, and so when you start to think about it, you got to think the Legends can get away with it. Then why don't Masterpiece producers produce these characters that are more sought after? Now, I know we don't want to just see remakes and remakes, but new people are joining in, and some of the older ones could use an update and all of that. I understand. I don't want to just see remakes and swap outs forever, but it still is an interesting question that's asked multiple times a week. You know, it goes along with the question of, oh, why don't they upscale this? Or they should upscale this. And just like right now, I'm going to work on this Magic Square Devastator. I don't have that pictured, but people want that to be upscaled to Masterpiece. As you can see right here, you see the backs of some Legends figures. I like the one on the right, which is Magic Square more, but the back of him, that is super ultra clean compared to what Takara did. And these companies could be dangerous if they started taking their designs, upscaling to Masterpiece. But the same reason they're not upscaling to Masterpiece is the reason third-party companies aren't revisiting these figures. It's kind of funny because I think that each week videos sort of build on themselves, and I think we really did that right here. But what you're seeing is less Masterpiece collectors, more Legends collectors, and for whatever reason there's a glut of Fans Toys product on the market. You're seeing that these companies usually takes them 3 years from the design point till they actually can deliver to you the figure, and somewhere in there, a year and a half, 18 months into it, 20 months into it is when they reveal it. For the most part, that would be a good cycle on that. So they would have to do this planning for a long duration of time. They look at this, and these figures that are, a lot of these are big hitter figures, these figures aren't selling, so why would they plop all this money, time, and research and investment into making characters that already exist, that are a decent representation, and may or may not sell well? So that's another major consideration, that the shrinking market of Masterpiece is hurting those characters. They might have seen what happened to Zeta, and when Hasbro went after Zeta with the Unicron, and maybe they don't want that to happen to them. What? That's not Zeta? 01 Studio Cell. Okay, it's called 01 Studio Cell now. It's not Zeta, don't worry. Zeta's still around, and so is 01 Studio Cell. Anyway, what do you think about this whole topic of figures that third party is afraid of touching? These characters that third party Masterpiece companies don't want to touch. I'd like to know in the comments below what you think about this, and what other characters are you seeing this with? What other characters fall in this category? I'd like to know, and sort of add it to my list here. Like, subscribe to Deer Hanger out.